Okay, it's 10 o'clock. We'll call the Sawyer County Administration Committee meeting to order, please. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Tweed Schuman.
Here.
Ron Buckholz.
Right.
Excused is Mr. Duffy, Ron Kinsley, Mr. Schlueter. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Certification of compliance with open meetings law, Madam Clerk.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you, ma'am. Meeting agenda has been presented. Public comment. Anyone here wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. I have your comment sheet. Please state your name, address, and I'll give you 3 minutes.
Linda Zilmer, resident of the Village of Birchwood, Edgewater property owner and taxpayer. I have public comment about having to make public records requests to have public information updated to the county website. So I hope this doesn't count against me. The last audit I see posted to the administrative website was 2021. And so the 2022 budget would need to be posted so that people can look at that before the budget hearing, hopefully this week. Also, I understand last month's comments where as far as attaching budget exhibits to some of these agendas before the committee has a chance to see it, why there's a preference not to. But after it's presented to the committee, there is a budget page on the administrative website. So I would hope that all these budget documents, including the ones that were not available today, like the full-time equivalents and the fee schedule changes, that those would also be included with the budget documents. I had sent an email earlier this morning to Finance Committee members about the purpose of sales tax being for offsetting property taxes. And that includes a legislative fiscal bureau document that I hope you read, because I would like the county to develop a policy about budgeting sales tax versus what you actually receive. So last year, $2.6 million was budgeted for sales tax revenue, which was then used to offset the county's levy to the individual towns based on EPV. Well, if you are having a large surplus of sales tax revenues, that's not to say, well, that should go to the VCB or wherever. That's to use to offset. So in the previous meeting, I asked that it offset Edgewater's property tax bill for the BFC ESD ambulance service. But I think there should be a policy, because this is just treated like bonus money every year. And then also it came up in the last meeting that Sawyer County purchases a new ambulance every year. And because departments do not present to their committee of jurisdiction, the public has no way of knowing how many ambulances you have, what their ages are, why you're replacing them every year. And again, that leaves the public to making a public record request. And we're all sitting back there, why are you getting a new ambulance every year? You know, and maybe $240,000 a year is over budgeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, anyone online? I don't see anyone else in the audience. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on then to approval of our meeting minutes from our previous meeting, September 14th, 2023. Okay, motion by Mr. Buckholz to approve our meeting minutes as presented. I'll second that. Is there any further discussion on our meeting minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 8, Veteran Service Department report. I don't see Gary here, but he gave us a written report.
Hey, good morning.
There you are. Good morning, Gary. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, we were pretty busy today. I couldn't make the trip over quick enough. So,
Okay.
for September, we had 388 phone calls, 250 letters, emails, and faxes, and 123 office visits. To date, we've filed, well, to the first, I guess, we've filed 164 disability and pension claims and received retroactive payment of a little over $199,000 in the veterans' favor. Our training is up to date, and we are very busy. Thus, I'm sitting here today. We've got Nicole full-time. I can't thank everybody enough for that. Her desk is full, like mine is, and we're pedaling.
Good, great. Great to hear that, Gary. Does the board have anything for Gary? Mr. Kinsley, Dale? Good. All right. Appreciate that, Gary.
Yep,
Thanks
thank
for all you
you.
do, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, number 9, information technology. Mike?
Good morning. I have a report submitted. I don't have really anything to add unless there are any questions. Yeah, you got to mute. Can you mute Gary?
Okay, any questions, concerns for IT, anyone? All right, thank you, Mike. All right, moving on then to number 10, human resources report. Rose,
Good morning.
thank you for joining us.
Welcome. I submitted a report. I guess my only updates would be is we did hire 2 foreman positions out at the highway yesterday. And we have on my report, I have a recruiting for a sanitation administrative assistant position, but we've done some shuffling in the health and human services area. So we are actually going to post a new position that is more of a fiscal job than what this one is. That's all I have unless you have questions.
Several ongoing personnel issues. You're on top of those?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Rose.
Mhm.
Okay, anything for HR, Mr. Kinsley?
Actually, I want to ask IT if we had new laptops in the budget for next year.
I don't think we have the budget for him, but I am slowly getting him to the board. I just gave Mr. Rusk his, well, he hasn't picked it up yet, but his is ready, and I'll kind of expedite that now. I know the iPads just aren't working the way we want them to, so we'll start making that go a little faster.
Thank you.
We found a good deal on some refurbished laptops that are in really good quality. Not that it matters, but yes, we're working on it.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mike.
Um,
And thank you, Rose. Andy?
Yeah, just to follow up on Rose's comments about highway. So I think now we've kind of reaching the conclusion of a small restructure at the highway department, working with the highway commissioner, Rose. The highway commissioner was new this spring. Our operations superintendent, Brad Bisey, is retiring. So they have filled that position, or his replacement's on board. And then we have foremen in each of the shops now. In addition to that, the state approved a night watchman position. So that'll be partially funded by the state, but that person will work overnights, 4 nights a week from middle of November till I think March, or through March. So a lot of the response and on-call was really concentrated with the operations superintendent before, which we're fortunate to have people who are willing to do that, but now it's going to be distributed more amongst the operations, the foreman, and the night watchman. So it's kind of modernizing our highway department for what the workforce is expecting, but I think we're through all those things now and have everybody in a position, and we've got applications or filling the open position, so we're hopeful to have a full crew out there in the next couple months.
Good, thank you. Rose, do you have any concerns with the new budget being proposed with your HR and all our salaries and fringe?
No,
Thank you. All right, appreciate that. Moving on, number 11 then, County Clerk Department Report. Lynn?
Yes, I've got the details up here for the counter that we are responsible for. On the election side, we did order the new envelopes that were required due to the revamp of the style for absentees based off of WEX commission recommendations. Unfortunately, the printer decided to add the state and zip detail into a place that had been removed. So we had to throw away 10,000 envelopes, and they are going to be reprinting at their cost. But it wasn't just us, there was half the state that they did this to. So unfortunately, they're going to be facing a big loss on that project. I got a lot of good ideas at our conference. So I have met with IT, with EMS, and the Sheriff's Department to develop our backup plan for elections in case something happens and we have to vacate our office for an election period. We have a backup plan now in writing that each of us have, so we have that shared. And then we have continued to have record number of records requests coming in. The Sheriff's Department gets the brunt of those, as you can see from the next report. Since I've been asked to start tracking those on a spreadsheet last month, you're going to see a big jump next month again as well, because now the Sheriff's Department is also tracking theirs. The records requests that are on these reports are only the ones that I have been involved in. If some department gets a records request and they forget to let me know, they don't go on that report. So I believe these numbers are a little bit low, but they're the best we can get. And those are on this report. You can see that we have, as of this report date of 9/31, we had 119 requests. I can already tell you that we're up to about 138 right now. We had a big, busy September and October. 5 of them that I know of have had to refer to attorneys because of their detail and sensitivity. Last month, I was asked by Mr. Schuman to start tracking the amount of time we spend on staff actually fulfilling records requests. At that time, there was 19 hours. Now, anything before that period, we don't have that information available. So next year, we'll have a better idea of how much actual time is spent on records requests. Total as of today, we have 35 hours recorded of tracking. And in the month of September, we received 51 records requests alone that I can be aware of. And so then the spreadsheet can be broken down into some pivot charts here that just kind of summarize things. The first one is the by department, the number of requests going into that department. You can see that the Sheriff's Department gets the brunt of them. Of course, the County Clerk's Office gets a good number, and zoning. So those are the 3 top areas that get records requests frequently. And the time spent now is on the other side of that chart. The number of minutes spent on a request is on the left-hand side. So in this case, you'll see that there were 10 records requests that were documented having 15 minutes spent on them each. So the total amount of time at the bottom there was 119 minutes, 119 requests. And then the last one is just based on records requests by the requester. Any questions?
Lynn, you said that you have to involve the attorneys for some of these because they're pretty intricate requests. Are you tracking that attorney time? And
No, we don't. We don't have any way
You
to
just
do
put
it. And
minutes?
Rosa and I have talked about that. We can't recover the cost. We can't do anything about any attorney involvement.
yeah, I think, yeah, we should make that available too. So
Make what available?
the attorney fees that are needed to answer all these requests.
So someone would need to feed that to me
Yeah,
because I don't have
let's put it
access.
out.
Yeah, let's keep track of that too as well. And I appreciate you tracking your minutes and time because it seems like it's very involved. All right. Does that conclude your report, Madam Clerk?
Does conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good report. I appreciate that. 2024 is going to be a very busy election season, correct? Got it. Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Number 12, WCA conference update. Andy, I think we kind of gave an update at the last meeting, but what did we want to add to that? I know shared revenue was a huge concern then.
Yeah, they covered the increases in shared revenue. I don't know the other sessions, but the ones I sat in on, treatment courts and mental health, there's still ongoing issues for other counties. The good thing about the conference is you learn that you're not rowing your own boat, so to speak.
Right.
There's a lot of other people trying to get the same things accomplished and improved in their county. Cybersecurity, trying to catch Mike before he walked out. That was a hot topic. We had a few presentations on that. There have been incidences in the state where counties have been locked. Hackers have locked them out of their information.
Right.
So that's always a concern. I talked to Mike about it, and you can never do enough. So we've got good backup plans in place in case that ever does happen, that we should be able to get back up and running with backups. Outside of that, we did have some conversations with our council about a couple of the issues that we were working on here, as well as WCA staff, and we're in contact with them. I think as a result of those conversations that the chair had and I had, our council will be here next week on Thursday and Friday for the rooming house meeting, and I think the county board meeting and the zoning committee should sit in person. And then we're waiting to hear if WCA staff will be here in person with her or joining remotely for the tourist rooming house.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, we did have good discussion regarding that. And we got some actual plans and ordinances from other counties and townships so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So that's really helped us. Okay, was there anything else? Remind me again, where's the shared revenue come in the budget and where are we using it?
It's just general revenue. I mean, we were already getting shared revenue of, I'll just say 25,000. Now we're going to get 300 and some change. So that goes in as general revenue. So when you look at the budget, you're going to see state aids.
Yep.
And that's where it goes. So it offsets. I mean, we have a substantial increase in our budget this year, and some of that's levy and some of that's the additional shared revenue. And that's it's allocated just as general revenue. So, but it is covering largely adjustments to wages for employees. That's why we can recommend the 2%, 1% for general staff. And we already settled on the union budget, which has a sizable increase next year as well.
Wonderful. So we really haven't had to make many cuts then
No,
to balance our budget, correct? I remember previous years that was a big fight.
right. We have not. Our goal going into the budget thus far have been status quo to try to maintain existing programs. I mean, are we doing some unmandated things? There are a few, but for the most part, everything we do is, kind of the things that counties are required to do or typically do. So the finance committee, and you'll see this in the budget hearing package, the full-time equivalents are staying the same. We did do some shuffling of increasing the dog pound, lowering the extension. There's an increase in clerk of court, which you already knew about, but that's offset by reduction in the surveying office. So we're trying to keep the net the same. The other thing that's helping us out, and like Mr. Schlueter knows, this could turn on us any day, but we are managing the outside commitments of individuals to secure placement or mental health facilities. Those are still happening. That's still a sizable expense, but it's manageable. We're within budget on adult placements. We are over budget on youth placements, and all it took was one youth to be placed outside the county for a 12-month treatment to double that budget. But that is expected to end after a year, so that will come down. But we have now staff dedicated to youth justice, so we do anticipate seeing more placements happening, or even directed by the court, more placements. But to your initial question, we are holding the line
Good.
with really no program or staff cuts.
And the resolution we presented at the annual meeting, right, was approved. And so they're looking at that, how we can offset the out of county placements.
That's still on the agenda for WCA as part of their legislative agenda. I talked to Chelsea, who's the WCA legislative person who really heads up the HHS and the mental health area. And honestly, I think what happened in this last state budget is that all the focus was on shared revenue.
Yep.
And, that was I mean, even though for us, it's peanuts, like relative to our overall budget, on a legislative level at the state, that was a big move for municipalities and counties to get additional shared revenue. That had not changed in 15 years or more. So even, and not just that we receive more money, but now we will see an increase every year because they're tying it to the sales tax. So essentially, 1 penny out of the 5% sales tax that the state gets will be distributed to through shared revenue to local governments. So as that goes up, everybody will see small increases in shared revenue.
Okay, thank you. All right, that concludes number 12. Number 13, County Administrator's Report, sir.
All right. Just to, courthouse renovation, I gave a little more detailed report to the Public Works Committee last night, because it's going to involve some negotiation and potential legal, depending on how it plays out. But we do have some numbers now on things that we think were over budget in the project that were at no fault of ours. We will be trying to come to a settlement with the vendors on that. I guess I'll leave it at that. Otherwise, everything is running as it should. There are still a few punch list items that need to be addressed, some with the concrete floor. And so at this time, we have not paid any additional money to the construction manager or to the architect. We're holding the funds until the project's completed. Once we get kind of all that resolved, there are still some remaining issues that were not included in the project as far as furniture that we'll discuss down the road. They're nothing that's essential right now to use the building. The budget process, we kind of just covered that a little bit. Just, I guess, a couple comments on it. I mean, you've asked if Rose is comfortable with where we're at. We're comfortable going into next year, but it'll always be a battle. We are taking some big steps. The last finance meeting, Mr. Schlueter asked if we're closing the gap based on the Carlson-Detman study that was done years ago, and the county set the wage rates at below what the market was. So we're piecemealing that, and year by year, Rose does a good job of trying to address each department and get them closer to where the market is. So between the last couple of years, ambulance and highway and the court system and some human services, I think we have closed the gap. But it's like running a race. Other people are running with you, so we're trying to keep up in the race because everybody's in the same position in the public and private sector. I'd say applications have improved. We're seeing, so that's a positive. As far as insurance and benefits, we did share at the last meeting that we're actually going to see a reduction in health insurance costs. That is a reflection of the utilization. We had been looking, Rose and Mike, with self-insurance because we have the last number of years been below, not utilizing all of our health insurance. So essentially we're leaving money on the table that the insurance company gets to keep. So I think the insurance company knew that. We were looking at self-insurance and came with a very competitive bid, but that's still something down the road that we're going to want to bring back. So we're taking steps to prepare ourselves to go to self-insurance. So we now just received the quote for the new insurance for next year, which shows the reduction. And so now we're looking at ways to improve it for the employee. So in the past, we've only been able to offer one plan. We're looking at adding a second plan with a high deductible that would lower the upfront cost for the employee, but actually create a little more risk for them to pay out of pocket for anything. But at least they'd have a choice. We're also looking at a little bit better dental offering. That is 100% employee covered, but we think we can lower the cost for the employee. We're looking at a self-insurance option. And then also we'll be reintroducing the PTO proposal, a little different than what we had last year proposed. It did get favorable reviews when we did the employee survey earlier this year of switching to PTO. And so we're going to roll that out to the employees and have a recommendation to discuss at the committee next month. That would it would not apply to 24-hour employees. So EMS, sheriff's department employees would not switch to PTO. It'd be for the general staff, and that would replace their sick and vacation time to to a PTO arrangement. See what else. Any other comments, questions on the budget? Otherwise, it's you'll hear some public comments. I think we've covered Waldo and the Edgewater discussions, but I expect that they will be at the budget hearing to,
Mhm.
and the board can take the direction they want on that. Otherwise, it's
Well, I'm sorry I missed finance, but is finance committee good with the budget? Or are we gonna,
Finance committee, listen to the budget. There, see?
I got you.
Right there.
I got you.
And I think the administration has done a very nice job putting the budget together. They've offered us different things different ways to do different things, and that has been chosen, and we've moved forward and ready to bring it to the public hearing and the full county board.
wonderful. Yep, appreciate that.
I should say the other thing that we've talked about that's helping the budget going into next year is interest earnings.
Right,
And that
Right.
we really did not budget those in for next year. We're not anticipating that kind of return next year, but it is helping us in this year's budget, which helps us in future years' budgets.
agree. And nothing really new on the carbon credits.
No,
Correct.
in fact, I guess discussion at the conference, we're all, when I say we, it's all the counties that have signed on to this. We're waiting to see Bayfield County. They were in and signed up long ahead of most counties. And as of the conference, they had not received any proceeds yet. Their credits have been certified and were being marketed the last we knew. So at some point they should sell, or maybe they have sold and they're just still in the process. But our timeline, our credits are still being verified. So right now, it's a month-long process. They're setting up plots on the county forest. I think 300 and some, where they measure the growth. So they're installing those. They should have those done middle of this month. And then I'm not sure how long they're out there, but that helps determine how many credits we have based on the growth of the county forest. But we're not anticipating them any funds now in 24. So it might be a discussion as far as when we prepare the 25 budget, but still is out there a little ways.
What increase does the new budget have on the 100,000 value of homes from last year?
It goes down. The tax rate's gonna go
Can
from,
you say that louder?
well, I don't want to say it too loud. I'm always hesitant to, it goes from $3.09 to like $2.68. Don't quote me on that, but it's
Okay.
roughly in that area. But
Right.
that's,
That's how
Again-
I read it too, that we were either maintaining or going down.
yep. But that statement that in every municipality uses it, the effect on $100,000 house, but $100,000 house last year isn't worth $100,000 this year. It's worth $120,000.
Yep.
So, like finance Mike explained, the reflection of the mill rate going down is a reflection that the valuation of the property is going up quicker than the budgets are.
Got it. All right, thank you. Anything else for Andy?
Well, that's just the budget. I got a couple other things here.
Oh, sorry.
So, it covers insurance benefits. Just a few other things. I know there's been some comments that were made last night regarding the airport and the master plan process. They're working on scheduling the next meeting of the master plan steering committee. I know Derek has indicated he's got some phone calls. Mr. Kinsley, I believe, had a phone call about concerns about expansion of the airport. At this point, there hasn't been any discussions as far as the master plan on expanding the airport or shrinking it. I'm sure that will come up, but just so everybody's aware of that. We've been working on mental health issues in the jail. We're looking at options. You heard about those last month, difficulty with our vendor and supplying what we need. So we are pursuing some options that may lead to us supplying that mental health services directly or contracting directly rather than through ACH. Zoning, a little more active with the tourist rooming house discussion. And then we do have, we have a Board of Adjustment training that we're going to offer on November 14th. I know I emailed the zoning committee about dates we were hoping to use the same person to do both trainings. The Center for Land Use has decided that they're going to have two different people. So the other person that does the zoning committee training isn't available that week, and actually now we're into December at trying to find a date that will work to do the zoning committee training. But those are coming. Senior Resource Center, we've had to follow up on some things that have come up there in case anybody hears about them. They have been short drivers, so delivering home meals. There was some gaps in, I guess I'll call them gaps in service in September. And then also they've been getting slow reimbursements from GUAR, which is the state agency that reimburses some of the meal program. And that led to slow reimbursements for drivers. So we have talked that if that comes up in the future, that potentially we could advance funds and then receive the reimbursement from the state to recover that if they are slow. And then I think some ambulance issues as well that we've been addressing with the director there, just some staffing, I won't say shortfalls, but just trying to get consistent staffing. Our ambulances are staying up and running. It just maybe is a little bit more complicated to have consistent staffing than we'd like to see. And I think I mentioned at last month's meeting that we did have a meeting with representatives from LCO, and we're still following up on some issues there with right-of-ways, and then the tribal land taxation regarding tax deed lands within the reservation boundaries, and determining if we can offer them to the tribe before we put them up for sale. First, we're going to find out the legalities of that, and then I'll come back to the committee and the board to decide if that's something we want to do.
Is that something where if we wait 5 years, we don't have to worry about that?
Nope. Well, that might be the legal answer. I mean, that might be what we want to do, regardless if we want to work with the tribe or sell them to the public, is that we hold them. But the tribe has asked for like a right of first refusal on properties within the reservation, and that new legislation, that Act, whatever that was, 216 or whatever it was. Yeah. We don't know how that affects, because the new tax deed law requires that we return any excess proceeds to the original owner.
Yeah.
So if we make a arrangement to offer right of first refusal to the tribe, it's how much do we offer it at? So we're not violating that tax deed ordinance. So we're having that researched, and then also the right-of-way discussion. And then we also have just put out the RFQ for a vendor for the public safety radio system to try to see if there's if existing vendor or another vendor would be best suited to take over working on and maintaining our public radio system. And I think that would be all I have to share.
So tell me again about that act. Was it 216 you said? Any surplus on the sale of the property over and above what's owed taxes on it?
Yep.
Would then go back to the previous owner?
Yes, that's the law that was 2022. A county takes a tax deed property. You have to try to recover your back taxes on the property plus any expenses you can keep. But if you put it up for sale and say you have back taxes are $5,000 and it costs you $5,000 to maintain it till you sold it, and somebody buys it for $20,000, if it's within 7 years of the back taxes, you have to return the surplus. You have to try to find the original owner,
yeah,
and return the surplus to them. That's why
where in the past we kept that surplus?
Correct.
Thank you. All right, anything else for
And
Mr. Alvarado?
it's not, I mean, there's some properties you have a surplus on, and there are some properties you end up
Right.
taking a loss on.
Right.
I got a question. Meals on Wheels drivers.
Yep.
You say there's a shortage of them?
Yep.
Because they're not getting paid on time? That's been an ongoing issue. That's been an ongoing issue for a long time. I know when I sat on that board too, there was a lot of complaints that the driver were getting, that they weren't getting their pay on time. So is that why there's a shortage of them?
I think there was a shortage of them before this current issue of not receiving reimbursements on me. So they don't get paid to do the job, they get paid mileage.
Mileage.
Yep.
Yeah,
But I guess I know Mr. Slater's heard that, but that was not conveyed to us as a reason that there was not enough drivers.
From what we know, that there's been 2 occurrences this year of slow payment, and that was because GUAR did not reimburse,
okay.
and there was no surplus to do it.
All right, then I'm gonna go backwards here. I got one question for Rose. Recruiting driver operator for the highway at Radisson. Where are you with that?
We have 3 applications that we're hoping to interview next week.
Oh, okay.
And we have an opening in Radisson, we have still another opening in Hayward. And we have applicants that would,
Okay.
live near each shop,
Okay,
There's
thank
two
you.
in Radisson,
2 in Radisson.
And you have applicants of 3 for the 2 positions.
Thank you.
One other
Yep,
thing is,
yep.
so I know I want to bring up, just so you're aware. So, and I know some of you have asked about the EDC, Surrey County LCO EDC. They have been without staff or a director for at least 6 months. So they've been searching, they've had some candidates, but nothing's happened. So there has been some discussion at the corporation about how to stabilize the position. Part of the issue might be that it's a part-time position. And so one of the ideas, and we talked about this at the ED meeting, so I want to make sure you're aware, is potential of partnering with the county on a position or housing the position within the county so that there was some stability and office space, things that might make that position a little more easier to fill, but also be more accountable for what they're doing. I don't know the total history in the county about the county's involvement outside of the funding. I do know a little bit more about the corporation not having a good track record of maintaining staff or maintaining a consistent program. So that conversation has happened, and if anything develops there, we'll be bringing it back at some point.
And that's a partnership like Sawyer County, Lac Economic Development, correct?
Correct. Both the
And both entities put money
Contribute.
towards it,
Yep.
contribute, yeah. I see. All right, anything else for Andy? Dale?
Yeah. Health and Human Services is working with counties around us to provide better, more consistent care and to fill slots that are tough to fill. Can Sawyer County Economic Development recognize that the counties around us are probably in some of the same straits that they are, and put feelers out to let's combine into, or is that already being covered by, what's the other group that we use for?
well, there's the planning commission's regional.
Yeah. Okay,
Northwest Regional Plan.
Northwest Regional Planning,
Yep.
okay. So that's regional, but I'm wondering if it would still save money and allow better recruitment to take place if we partnered with Washburn County or Taylor County or Bayfield County to develop economic development programs.
Yeah, I think that's part of the consideration that the corporation is going to have to make. I don't know if that's going to be their preference, but it has been brought up about combining with another county or counties to try to staff a full-time position.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else for our administrator and his report?
Didn't we do that before, when we first started putting that together, economic development? And we tried to partner with another county, and then we felt like we were getting slighted after a while because the, lack of a better term, the leadership was showing they were from the other county. Seems like that's how we started it.
Okay.
Anyway, obviously we should look into it, but I'd be hesitant about it also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kinsley. All right, appreciate it, Mr. Alvarado. Thank you for that report. Moving on then to number 14. I would entertain a motion to go into closed session to convene in closed session pursuant to section 19.851F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, and in which para B does not apply, applies which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations. The committee will then reconvene in open session immediately following the closed session and may take official action on matters discussed in closed session. Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Kinsley. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Buckholz,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsley, Mr. Schleter.
Yes.
Motion carries. We are now in closed session. I got 10:41 a.m. Thank you, Rose. Okay, we are now back in open session. 10:48, Madam Clerk? Okay, number 15, future agenda items. Well, ongoing. Yeah, right. Future updates on this. Okay, Andy? Yep. Anything else? All right.
Lots of things that go forward out of each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And we are pretty open to putting on here what needs to be discussed. Yep. Okay, number 16, correspondence, reports, conferences. I think anything other than a WCA? Anybody wants to add? Okay. If not, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Look forward to the public hearing on the